this demo in America with the Melville Woodturners Club, and that's when I refreshed my memory and sat down and watched that YouTube video myself. So if you want to go back and see how he did it, I do a few tiny little things differently to what he did, but other than that it's virtually an identical demo to what he did. So that's Jimmy Clues on the 13th of January 2015. It's pretty easy to pick up once you Google Jimmy Clues, you can go from there. So that's about the lead up to everything we're doing. So first thing is to turn the bottom part of what I call a box and then the lid to come on top. So what I'm going to do is firstly create a spigot. It's important, one of the most important things if you want a really nice job at the end of this is to make sure that your blank is dead square. And I don't mean this is a 200 blank, and I don't mean that side could be 200 and this side could be 201. That's not dead square. It's got to be dead square. So I ordered my timber from Bruce and then I cut it up on my own bandsaw and I had it cut it up, set up exactly at 200. Even if it's 199, it's fine, but everything's got to be dead square. Otherwise you'll find that the edges will be different at the end of the exercise. And the same goes for the little blank I've got for the lid. And the other thing is to have, when you're turning this type of project, is to have very, very sharp tools. Like I'll be using a swept-back bowl gauge for a lot of the work today, and I've actually got 3 identical 12mm half-inch bowl gauges, and I've got 2 out now, and I've still got one as a backup if I need it. So they keep things sharp. The other thing you'll need to do, I traditionally use my swept-back bowl gauge on I tuck it in like we should, and I'll put it in virtually at a level scenario to dig out. When you're doing this project, it's important that you have it on an angle, almost like you should have your roughing gouges on a 45-degree angle. So you're cutting upwards as you're going in, and therefore you're ensuring that you cut at 1 o'clock and you'll get a nice clean cut. If you try and cut that way, you'll end up chipping your timber. So if I'm chipping my timber, I'll try and correct myself and say, now I know what I'm doing. Now this project surprisingly allows itself to do a bit of what they call the likes of Neil Turner would call it a draw cut. I'm crude enough to say it's a drag cut, because what you're doing is putting your chisel on your tool rest and dragging it backwards like this. And Jimmy Clues does a lot of it in the video going back to January 2015, and probably that's where I picked up the bad habit watching him, because I do a lot of drag cutting to finish my work, and I think it's a very good technique to get things just sorted out very nicely. You get your if you're doing something on a vertical, I still do a drag cut with my swept-back bowl gauge just to make sure it's in a beautiful orientation. So you'll see me doing a fair bit of drag cutting today, but that's intentional. All right, enough for me. I'll pass that around as well. You can all have a look at that. That's the difference. One of the difference I'm going to do a different lid. I don't think that a different knob. I don't think that gives credit to the job. It's supposed to be an oriental square box, and you'll see if you notice that my knob is an oriental type knob as opposed to what he's done. So that's one little difference I do, and I do a couple of other things. Right, face mask on. I hope you can still hear me. Let me know if you can't. Alright, first thing we're going to do is form a 10mm spigot on the base so we can turn around and hold it. So it's a good time to practice doing your cutting here on the edge, because all this first 10mm that I've marked is going in here, so it's a really good time to practice it now. So I'll practice my drag cuts at the same time. Alright, so I've mounted it, I'll step to one side, turn the lathe on.
So is that just pressure holding it onto the chuck?
So no, it's already on a screw chuck on that side. My apologies, I didn't take it. And then I've got this steb live center on this end, and the reason I'm using that, I've lined it all up, hopefully it's dead square, but the reason I'm using that, because it's the thinnest live center I've got. And as usual, I'm fogging up very nicely here, so I'll just... Okay, now one of the other things to do is keep the speed up here. The more speed you have, the better your cut will be as top of project. And you'll find that you can see where the edges are, but you'll quite often find I'll go to the tool rest and put some marks on
on the tool rest exactly where the edge is. I'll stop and show you that because I can see it, but so you can see me leaning here, and I put a mark here. Now that's where I know I can line up my chisel and then work into that. So let's get that cutting. Got my speed up, got my chisel up quietly. I've got my on an angle, and I just approach the job quietly. Just let it touch. And once you get inside the timber, it's a different thing. But I can see where the timber is. Keep that speed up. I'll come in here now, and now we're into the solid surface. I can do a standard cut. If something's touching, I just make sure it's only a wood chip, and it is. I have to constantly keep moving the tool rest. I'm almost down to my 10mm there, but I want, and I'll do some drag cuts here to show you. So that's what I call a drag cut, and I'm just removing bulk timber. And you can go out here on the wing, but it gets a bit dicey. You can hear it bouncing there, and I will be doing a bit of drag cutting over wings this morning, but I just saw when I turned it off, I just need to take a bit more off on this leading there. And this, as I said earlier, is good practice. That's where I'm meeting the solid timber, and things are not happy with. I'm going to stop and move my tool rest a bit closer. You can see where it was, I don't know whether you can see it there, but it's a pretty ragged cut there, where I was meeting the open air area to the solid area. Not a big deal, because all that's going in here, but just be aware of that. So right, so now what we're going to do now is I'm going to use a parting tool to form that spigot. So I'm going in there like that. I'm just going to lower that tool rest a bit. Too low, so turn it off and bring it up. I'm a great one for not persisting if I'm not happy. You know, it's a good, I think it's a good feature to have. So I've marked where my spigot will be out and bring my bowl gauge in to clean that up from there now. Take my bowl gauge in this way to form the spigot. When you're forming a spigot, try and get it on an angle to help your chuck grip. And I'm almost there. I'm going to come back and I'll do right out here. Because all the timber's going in there. Probably back that up. Go a little bit further, not quite in there. Just clean that up. I'll actually get a skew just to clean it up nicely and get a nice crisp corner there. And drag my skew back a bit like that. Get a flat face for my chuck to grab on. Okay. A bit clearer in this so I can see my dimensions and the like. Okay. Let's just have a look at it from there. So we'll do a little bit more, take a little bit more off here. I'll bring this up. Make sure it's not hitting. Again, every time you turn it off with this job, keep flinging it around like that and make sure that it's not cutting, it's not touching. So I'm going to try and clean this up with a forward cut with the swept back bowl gauge. So I'm just going to touch it lightly. I can see where I want to be. In doubt, do very light cuts with it. Don't try and take too much off at one time. Hopefully I'll clean this up now. I'm getting quite close to my work. I can feel the wind touching my my sleeve there. All right, so we've cleaned all that up. We've got the spigot ready for later on. Now we're going to form what we call the OG. As I was passing that sample around, you would have seen the curvature. I've got one here. Now an OG cut, as Jimmy Clues will tell you, is achieved in 3 parts. So you divide your back into 3 parts. So we've got about that's about a third, and that's about a third there. Now this is not, so you can put a mark there so you can see where you're going. It's not a hard and fast scenario. So I divided the back portion into 3 now. So what we're going to do is it's reasonably coming out from the spigot, it's fairly flat, and then it's got a bow like that, and coming in the other way, it's the reverse. So we're going to take this timber off here to start with, back, and I can start taking it back to that first point there. So I'm going to turn my tool rest around a bit and quietly take that in. Again, I'm lining up that mark I had on my tool rest with the very tip, so I know when I creep up to it with my chisel, I know when to expect. You can see it if you look carefully, but it's easier if you've got a visual mark as well on tool rest. So when you creep up to it, you know what to expect. So I'm going to come in and take that cut there, and I'm going to gradually start cutting that in on an angle all the way. So approach it quietly. I deliberately want to have an angle cut now. Don't get too far away from the tool rest with it. Now I'm back to that mark there now. Turn it off. I'm going to constantly be moving my tool rest for this demo. But you can see already I've taken a reasonable amount out and starting to get a bit of shape. Try and keep that mark there so I don't have to keep constantly marking my tool rest. I can get as close as I like without, as long as it doesn't touch. Knock everything away and I'll keep cutting that away from there. You don't rush this, and I've already put a mark up here as to where the very where I want to finish the cut to leave the wing. Now this wing should be back here about, they say, between 12 and 15 mil. So I'm at 20 mil now, so I've got a little bit more to go. I'm going to move that tool rest again because I'm getting too far away from my work. I'll spin it around a bit. I brought my, in fact I should use it because I'm that far out. I brought my own tool rest as well, and I like this because it's a type of tool rest that sticks over, and you don't need a big tool rest. I believe in having the smaller tool rest as possible to do a job. See, put my mark on there, make sure. Right, let's keep cutting there. A few more more to go. Again, there's my mark on my tool rest, so I'm just quietly welding into it. Keep cutting this on. You do all your shaving of it, you've got to get it up to the point that you want it at 12 to 15 minutes. Cutting on an angle, my tool rest is on the angle I want to come in at. And you do bounce a lot. If you hold your chisel at 45 degrees and cut at 1 o'clock, it should give you a reasonable job. Let's stop and have a look at, see where we are. Constantly stopping, and that's getting close to, I'll do one final cut more on the leading edge here, just to clean that up. Searching for that edge. I'm going to do a very light cut now, see if I can clean the top of it. Okay, that should be it there, where we want it. That's about 15 milli. Good. Now I'm going to start doing what I call my drag cuts to shape this OG shape. So firstly I'm coming out fairly subtly from the spigot I created, and it comes out in a very slight angle. And then when it gets out to the past the first quadrant, it starts to curl around. So you can do all this with a drag cut. In the olden days when I started, I might hit this with a scraper, but I find the swept back bowl gauge is a brilliant tool. It does so many different jobs, and there's not, other than the very bottom of bowls, there's not much you can't do, and I use this more and more even for spindle turning. So I'm starting to get my shape there now. The shape now coming around and being a bit more severe. And you can drag cut those wings, but do it quietly. I hear it rattling, so it goes on the wing. I'm trying to get that shape started, the reverse shape now for the outside. I'm going to stop and bring my tool rest out. I'm going to start and do a cut in. I want this bit here has to be shaped inwards. So I'm going to set up my tool rest with that mark on it so I can see where I am. I'm going to try and start from the, for want of a better word, dig in a little bit there. And then I'm swinging it around. Do another cut. My body around, and you might go up and drag cut here. I can look at I'm looking at my profile here without even turning the lathe up, and I can see there's some rough there's a couple of bits that they're cleaning up just here. So very light, and I'll cut this and try and clean them up. I'm going to swing my body around, get my OG shape, come around to it. I've got some. I don't know whether the camera's picking it up, but you can actually, so I'm looking at the profile. I'm looking up at the top here. I'm not looking at the tool. You have confidence in where your tool, what the tool's doing. I'll try and get a nice cut to finish all this off now. Let's stop and have a look at it, see where we're at. Can you see the shape we've formed there? So this is the OG shape. Now I heard myself I've hit that edge there. That's got to be fixed. So I'm going to have to do a very nice light cut there to try and fix all that up. You can fix a bit of it up with sanding, but try and get your cuts right. And I can feel a lump there, so that's got to go. So what I'm going to do is mark a few areas, especially that lump. You can't see it, everything while but I just feel a lump. So I've marked that, so I'm going to go in and cut that, and I know I've got to do a nice little light cut right on this edge to fix this one bit of tear out. So I know where it is, I can see on my marks. I'll bring the tool up closer to my work. I'll do firstly concentrate getting that little tiny bit of tear, which means a very delicate cut here. I don't take anything up. Let the chisel follow the wood. Try and keep your chisel riding on the bevel now, the closer you get to it. Now here's this lump that I've talked about before. I'm taking it out now, but I might have gone too far. I'm going to do a drag cut here. You can hear the drag cutting when out of whole timber. But when you come around here, you can do a nice, light, easy dry cut. I'm just trying to refine my shape to make the box, or the bottom of the box, look more delicate. Going backwards and forwards with my drag cutting. And I can see the profile of that bottom's pretty good. Let's have a look at it all from here. It's not too bad, not too bad. It's still got that one bit of tear out, unfortunately. That might be a sanding job. Alright, and I'm conscious that I'm getting close to the edge. Having done all that, I'm really getting a pretty fine edge, so I don't want to do any more. Now, what I would do now, if I was at home, I'd introduce my sander to do this job from now on, to finish this, so that there's a fair bit of both manual, I'll do a bit of manual sanding at that point there to fix that up, and then I use my rotary sander. I've got this, I don't know whether you've used these, this is a rotary sander, and these are great, and they'll take a fair bit of whacking as the wing swings around. I'll do one quick one to show you, but I don't intend to do too much sanding today, and that's why this is a 120 grit. I usually, unless it's something very unusual, I just make sure that it's not going to hit that. I'm going to have to move that tool rest this way. Tool rest come out, and I'm going to move the banjo, get it out of the way. I'll just show you how we can sand this. So shape-wise, I'm not too unhappy with that. Just be careful. When you use these, if you haven't used them before, you use them on an angle. You never use them dead flat, or you just, the adhesive backing will go. Now it's starting to get out here on the wing. You can hear it. Take it quietly. The worst that it does is usually destroy your little sanding pad. So I'm trying to blend it all in now and clean it all up. Right, let's just stop and I'll show you the effect of all that. And other than this one mark here, it's done a pretty good job. So I won't continue sanding, but that's how I do that, and then maybe just hand sand this area to get that right. So I've got my OG profile going. So now I turn the work around, and I take it off the, somebody asked me to start, and I forgot to tell you that I had that on a screw chuck. Do you all know what a screw chuck is? Because all that centre bit's going to be dug out with the centre of the box. Don't forget to unlock that before you start. I'll take the screw chuck out, or the screw out, leave the chuck there. This is my one I've finished, and I've sanded completely, so I'm going to flick over and do that one now. It's always handy with, I'll pass this around, you can see what I've done. But it's always handy to have a second one for a demo anyhow, and I can feel the difference in weight. They were both blanks. This one is considerably lighter than that, which is telling me I've taken more timber out of this one than that one there. So that one still is a work in progress, but as long as I've got my spigot there, I can come back to it. Now, somebody was saying earlier this morning that it's important when you're doing these jobs to get your work so it's perfectly lined up, because these edges are critical. If you've probably all experienced in bowl making, if you don't line things perfectly up and you take your work off and bring it back the next day, you'll find you could end up with a bowl 8mm on one side of the wall and 2mm on the other side. And the same applies here, but we're trying to make sure that these edges remain the same. So I've got a couple of ways of doing it. Firstly, I've got that sitting in the chuck, so it won't fall out, but it's not completely tightened up, so it's a bit wobbly. First, see that? Then I take this out and I use a cone line centre, and I just made myself this piece of timber block which sits in there and it will spin around on the bearings. But that's got a bit of slop in it, and that's done deliberately, and it's just about reached its use by date for this plate. Just move that up. I've just got to be conscious of keeping everything away. Right, block it off now.
Now what you do is I lock that off really hard before I then tighten the spigot at the back here. Now hopefully in doing that you've got it dead square. You can double check also by putting a live centre again, a cone live centre in the centre and see if she lines up. But I'm more interested in make sure that that is dead square. So what I can do is put my tool rest back on, bring it up to there, and you lock your tool rest in, but you leave the banjo loose. And bring it around and let it touch one wing deliberately, just lightly. Then I'm going to manually spin it and see if the same touch. See how far out I am. Now that's perfect. That one's perfect. That one's perfect. That's a mil, half mil out. And that's almost perfect. So 3 out of 4 ain't bad here. And the one that's out, looking at the side, you'll never get them all perfect, but it's important to get them pretty perfect, if you know what I mean. I'm pretty happy with that. Alright, we'll leave that there. Right, the next thing we're going to do is measure up the centre for where our box goes. And when I say it's the internal box, and looking at it there, it's this bit here. We're now going to turn out first before we do the wing shape on the inside. And I've got to do that, put those measurements in there, and it's 92 mil and 82 to the lip. So I'll put them in there. I'm going to work on them first. So 92 out from the centre. When I went to school was 46. So that's my 92 mark, and I'll mark the 80, so that's 40 out from the centre. Still got my centre marks here, so that's... So put those 2 marks on there now. Again, make sure that you're... Normally I turn the lathe on to do these marks, but I get very concerned about hitting the edges, so... Right, let's just check those 2 again. Check and double check. And that's 93. That's going to be close enough. And that's 81.5. So again, that's good. Alright, so that's going to be out. So what I want to do is drive a parting tool in at those 2 points, and that's going to be the outside of my box. If you mark up this measurement, it's no big deal at the moment, but you've just got to alter the lid when you bring the lid up to it as such. Right, but I'm now going to cut that out with a parting tool just to give myself some indication, and I'm looking for my parting tool. That looks like it. Let's get that out of my way before I put that through my elbow. Okay, spin it first to make sure it's not hitting anything. Get it down a bit lower, I think. Again, spin it. Okay, now because I've changed there, I step right away, turn the lathe right down to nothing, and crank it up. Now at this point in time, other than that edge spinning around, it's just a normal bowl work now. I can see already that my tool rest is a bit too close to my work for a parting tool to start with, so I'll bring it back a bit. Again, spin it before I start, and off I go. So I'm picking speed up now. I'm going in there. We've got the straight down cut at 9 first. I'm going in. This is going to be my little lip later on. Inside there at 80. And then I'm going again from that point onwards. I'm going to go right down. This is the bowl we're going to cover up. Right, so I can just move in there and do a normal bowl cut with my swept back hog out. And I'll move my tool rest again. So I've got my 3 marks and start to dig this out.
So when I dig something out, I start in the middle. Up and over, and I'm not very happy with the height of my tool, so I'll turn it off and drop it down a fraction. Just normal bowl work here. Don't rush it, just take it up and push it through. We've got that hole in the centre which is from the extrude cut. And this is the only disadvantage of wetback bowl gouges. They're fine doing this, but when you get down the bottom they struggle. And I've got my standard bowl gouge, which I'm going to quickly grab right now and swap over to that to clean that up, that bottom bit up. Get the bottom sorted. Okay, the speed's not very high, David. Let's just do some measuring to see where we're at. I'm supposed to be down by 35 from this top mark here. And I'm only down 19, so I've got a fair bit more to dig out. I've got more to take out from the side. So I'll bring back the sweep back again, take out a bit more at the side.
David.
Just quietly get it started. No, and it's going to kick back. So when things kick back, do a scrape like that and get rid of what the problem area. And I'll show you something at the end that one of our Melville Woodturners showed me when you're doing your final cut. At the moment, kickbacks are no big deal. Want to go deeper down there at the same time. When you're doing this edge, get it started and don't move. Some people go in dead like that to start with and then swing the blade around and open the blade up. So I just quietly make sure I'm in past that, the top distortion before I go any further. So I'm just picking up. Still got a way to go, I can see. Now I'll just show you that little trick that Brian Fairley taught me years and years ago. When you're getting towards the inside of a bowl where you don't want to, Murphy's law says if you don't do, make sure that you give yourself a chance, you'll have a kickback here right when you don't want it. And this is the area here that's going to be the inside of my bowl. So what you do is actually introduce a parting tool and just go down the wall a bit with a parting tool and create an art of the wall there with a parting tool. And then come back with your gouge and work back to that. But you've got legs to work with, to lean on that. And it's a great little trick when you're doing bowl turns. So I was leaning my bowl gouge on that leg. Go back to my standard bowl gouge to the centre bit. The centre piece there. Drag that back. Quietly, when you go into that centre bit, go very quietly, otherwise you can have a tear out there with that very fine little bit at the centre. Let's just do some measuring now. As you can see, we've got a fair bit of the bowl out now, and I have to be at 35. I'm still only at 25. 25 is there, so I've still got plenty of base to go. I'll do a little bit more cutting, but you don't, folks don't, ladies don't want me sitting around watching me scooping out a bowl all day. It's not part of the objective. A couple more cuts. We've got a huge amount of timber under here. down a long way. I forgot to say I'm too far off my tool rest, but that's my fault, nobody else's, because I haven't moved the tool rest in there, have I? You say you're too far off the tool rest, do something about it. Can spin your work to make sure it's not hitting like it just did then. What happened to me the other day when I was trying to finish that other bowl I had. Right, so block the banjo up and turn your tool rest in. Make sure nothing's hitting again. Let's finish up that and we'll call it quits on the bottom of the box here. Put it right up there till we split back doesn't want to go any further. Just quietly, you know, taking at that bottom bit. Now I'll just show you how I clean up the bottoms. I traditionally always used to use a standard scraper to do the inside of bowls and things like this. About 8 years or so ago, Frank Evans went east and came back with it to show us all this tool. And this is called half-round negative raked scraper. And if you watch, Frank, he uses a lot, and a few of us are doing the same now. It started off as a skew, and then I've rounded it off, and so it's a half round there, and I go around here as far as I can, and I also kick that front edge back so that doesn't bite. Now I use this as my scraper nowadays, and it's got to be used as a negative rake. You've got to have your tool rest up a bit. But did I have a light there that I saw, or was it? It doesn't matter, I've got a reason for that, I told you. But what you can do is you go in here with this to do your cleaning up. And you do it very lightly. And it's negative rate, so that means your right hand is higher than your, thank you kindly, that's lovely, see what I'm doing here. And the beauty of this tool, you try and keep the edge closest to me away from your work. And I'll clean that up there like that. I'm doing very light cuts. I've got a bit of a ripple or something in there, I can feel. I think I've even undercut that, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a nice touch in my box. And I can clean up my bottom just quietly. I'm not trying, it's more finishing rather than using it as a tool to cut. I'm just bouncing it on the bottom because I just had a little lump on the bottom that didn't come out. And go like that and go past the centre. Just quietly clean it out and hardly take anything off. Right, let's have a look at that, see where we're at. It's not bad at all. A little bit of light sanding there and then it'll all be finished. That's the inside of my box finished. I'm just going to tidy up this edge here. I'm going to clean this this point up here, and I can just about, I'll just do a drag cut on that, I think, with the, I'll go for my small sweep back. Just when I'm doing delicate work, I find that's a try, where is it? This is exactly the same profile as my other sweep back, but it's a 9.5mm chisel. And I find that very light drag cuts is not, the lighter tool is better. I'm just cleaning that edge up because that's going to be the top of our box. So again, a drag cut. I could have done a shear cut that way, but I didn't want to take too much of it. Okay. Again, normally I just give that a quick sand. I will see something I have to finish now, and while it's in a good position, I'm going to do that. Let's bring that back and make that step, for want of a better word, because that's where the lids can sit in there. I'm going to make that a bit deeper. That's a problem. That's why I chipped that box off before that I handed around, because the step wasn't deep enough. The lid wasn't sitting nicely, and that should be about 4mm. Okay, I'm quite happy with that now, and then I can roll that around, even with a party tool. Just roll around that corner. Now normally I'd sand all that now and get quite a nice clean edge to that. It's a step down, it's doing nothing other than letting the lid sit there, so I can just get a bit of paper and round that off. Watching my hand, take my hand away from the edges. It's going to be nice and round to give it a round effect. That's going the leading edge of that bowl coming in here. I love having a round effect coming in here. Okay, so I'm just rounding off those edges now. Okay, so that's the box virtually finished, other than if I was at home I'd be doing a bit of sanding there to clean that up, but quite happy with that finished to start with. Now we're going to have to, our next stage is to take the, where we're at now is we've finished the box, this top bit of the box here, we've finished all that, and now we're going to bring this wing out to match this wing out the underside. We're going to match it here, in here like that, and then create a curvature there. So that's where we're at, and that'll be just about it. So I'm looking at that marker I put on the tool rest as my starting point, so I know where I'm going to hit timber. I'm going to try and leave this edge at the moment. I'll be cutting it anyhow, but try and leave it as thick as I can. I remember for boxes I've done before, I've got too thin sometimes, and one I got really thin and cut it right off. So don't get too thin, it just creates difficulties for yourself. So as I said, we're going to align this curvature up with that. So I'll take a bit out of the centre to start with. Eating all that out. That's going to come up as a curvature later on. Still in solid timber. I'm looking at my profile all the way along. And I'm trying my butter to come back up. Right, now I'm starting to get into loose here. Come out to the tip now, where my texture mark is. Yep, that tool rest moved, that could be a disaster. Turn that off. You see what we're starting to cut there now? And I've got to line this up with the other side. So bit by bit, we're just going to cut that bit back further. Even tastes good, this stuff. Normally I wear a respirator in my shed, but it's a bit hard to talk to you blokes, you people, while I'm wearing a respirator. That's not far off where we want to be. I can thin this wall, this edge down a little bit more with another cut. Again, just feel for your work, go quietly. Have a look at our wing. It's getting quite nice there, isn't it? Got a little light. Just tidy that edge up, and I might have a leave it alone. Just try a light grey cut here. Like a rough It's a bit unnerving when you hear it bouncing, isn't it? But as long as you're controlling your tool, I'm not unhappy with that. That final edge is pretty good now. I'm just going to work from, what I'm going to do is move that tool rest into a point I want to work from now. So I only start there. So I want to start here now and work in further, because I've got it, if you look at that edge, it needs a little bit more work from there to there. So that's what I've lined my tool rest up to start at that point. I'm making sure that nothing hits. So that's where you're going to put your tool in there and clean it up from there. Let's have a look at what we've done. one little more cut to do on the edge. Bring my tool rest out again with my mark on it to tell me where I want to start my cut. So I don't want to start right at the end, I want to start in that little edge bit that's got to be taken out. You people can probably see it in the profile. See what I'm talking about? I want to come in there now. Start there. Make sure nothing's hitting, everything's locked. So I'm introducing my tool at that mark. Waiting to get the move. And continue to cut through down to solid timber. Great, 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 great. Happy with that. That's a nice cut. Now, you can fiddle around all you like now, and you'll end up ending in tears. I love that there. I still think that this area just here is a little bit thick. That is perfect. This is a bit thick. Now what I do now is I'll physically hand sand that. I'll just do one bit for you to show you. You can fiddle around all you like with the tool, you'll take one step too much and then you've ruined it. And by hand sanding it, it gives you an opportunity to get all the edges very similar in. And what I tend to do is lock that. So I can see I'm lining up, I'm sanding down this edge to start with, and I can turn it over a little bit first, lock my head, and sand down that. So nobody but you knows that you've cheated a bit here to get that final finish. And I can even do a bit on the other side as well. I can see that side is not as good as it should be. So I go up that way, and then I come back that way. Any scratch marks are going to come out in a minute because I've still got to do a final bit of sanding with my rotary sander. So I'm just trying to clean that up. And that's not too bad. It needs a bit more off the back more than the front. Doesn't do much for the little pad at the end, but it keeps your fingers out of it. And that's pretty good. A little bit more there, I could keep sanding there, but I won't. But I'm just showing it's more, a lot of it's techniques today, showing you how to achieve it. But generally, once I've gone around and done all four corners, like that one there is beautiful. I don't even have to touch that bloke. They all vary. And this one only needs a little bit at the back here to clean it up. So you can do each one. And then what I also do is get a sanding block, which I bought, with some 240 paper on it, and do the edges while I'm around. Again, lock that here to be good. So I go around each of the edges like this, clean them up. And that's as much as that takes, that one. Okay. That's pretty good. I can go through the various grits. That was 240, I can do 400. I always clean down to 800 on all my jobs. But that's, so I clean my edges up. All I've got to do is go back and do a little bit of work on various corners here. That one there needs some work on it. So that one needs some work on it. This is a little bit of work. That a little bit of work, and that one's already perfect. I wouldn't touch that anymore. So I just tick them off up, put a bit of pencil on there to say I've finished that one, then move on to the others. So that's how I finish the corners off manually. Now we've just got to take this out here. You can take it out in lots of different ways to shape, because your shape is right there, so nothing's going to change from now on other than clean the centre bit out to make it's purely beautification, for one, if that's the right word. And I'm looking for the edge of my bowl there, so I've got to come down there and clean that out. And I'm just very conscious of hitting anything. I'm still miles away from it, so let's go a bit closer. Get your tool rest as close as you can to it. That's too close. Right, all four wings are okay. Let's see if we can get in there and clean this up. I'll do some drag cuts down there. got a huge amount of skin to take off there. Now we're coming up to that. We'll drag that down. Try to run the shape up to that box now. A little bit off at a time. So blend that in better than I've done. Alright, going to introduce that the Frank Evans tool again. Clean this area up in here. So I'm going downhill a bit here. Now I'm coming out to still until the timber, I'm backing off the pressure, I'm coming back up in there. Trying to get a nice corner there. Alright, let's stop and see what we've done here. Not necessarily unhappy with that. I've still got this little area here I'm going to try. I could take a bit more out of that if I wanted to, but I'm not going to continue that because if I was at home, I'd take a little bit more out of this area here to give it a little bit more curvature without coming any further out, because I don't really want to affect this edge. So let's just leave that alone. So I'd take a little bit more out in this area here, and then I'd sand it all down. And that'd be the box finished as such. So let's leave that alone and move on now to the lid. Any questions so far with all that? All very quiet, everything understood at this stage? Rightio. What I'm going to do is, before I forget, is mark where I've got quite a couple of chucks, and each of them I've got a different marking on the jaws. So this one here, I just put a little pencil mark so it can always be rubbed out and write 3 in there. That tells me I've used chuck number 3, and that's where the mark is, because I've only got one jaw marked as such. I forgot to send this around when I started the demo. You can send this around as well. I just wanted to get my technique right for shaping wings with something spinning around, because I hadn't done it for years and years and years. So I ended up just using a spare one of those blanks, and I made myself a little bowl, which I don't mind. The wife said it's a bit stumpy, but I like it as such, so she didn't win that discussion. So a little bowl to put some knickknacks in or something like that. I just pass that around as well. Now what we do is use what we call a stab centre here. I don't know whether you people are all aware of one of those, and they're great for light work. And this is what I call light fiddly work here. So what we want to do is put the stab in there, and I want to bring a live centre up at that end. I love this cone live centre, because it's got quite a delicate point going in, but also once it gets in it really grips well. So we're putting a stab on this side. I've already marked all this when I said before, you have to make sure that your timber is exactly square. It's also to spend a lot of time on getting that centre point exactly in the centre on both sides. Okay, and I've got one of these centre finders here, which does a good job. I don't know whether you use those, but they're brilliant. And the trick though, I know in a video once I saw this English bloke saying, oh, they're all right, but they're a pain because they never get it exactly right. And the reason he doesn't get it exactly right is because he says it's the width of the pencil that creates a problem. And I 100% agree with that. A, get a sharp pencil, B, put it in there, and I deliberately put weight on this side. And what I do is go around this and I mark it. A lot of people only mark it twice.
but I'm holding all my weight is just here on this left-hand corner. I go around again, I go around again with the weight in the same place, and go around again. And either my pencil mark wasn't right there, or this is, and it was my pencil mark, because I do it again and it's okay. But that way, if the wood isn't quite square and you want to find your centre, you've got 4 lines intersecting. You go right in the middle of that, and then you are dead square. But once I fixed that correction, I can see I am dead square there. Thankfully. Because if you're not dead square, again, your wings won't be right. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use, because I want to get in there deliberately, I'm going to use my steb live centre at the other end. I like that because of the narrowness here. And also it's got a nice long Morse taper there, so I can get all this right away from my work, and allows me to get in there. So on that side, I've got to line up my point on this side. Now I'll lock that off and continue in. Now I'm going to double check myself again. I bring my banjo around this side, and I'm going to make sure everything's nice and tight and in. And then I'm going to gradually let the tourist just touch that one point. And then bring it around and make sure the other's pretty good. Pretty good. 2 sides are pretty good one. You'll never get this exact, but it's, if you can make sure your blank is pretty square. Touched. I'm within about ½ mil. So
you've marked the top and bottom.
Yes.
What's the difference between them?
Just for me setting up, because I want to put my step in there, and this is going to be my, this is the top, which is going to be, there. That's my top there. Now this, I'm going to create a spigot here, which will turn into the knob later on. So I want a spigot because I need to be able to turn around, hold it to do all this work on the back. Alright, so that's why I mark my blank top and bottom. And I always get my blanks and have a good look at them anyhow. And sometimes there's a good reason why you want, especially in bowls, why you want a certain face upwards and downwards, and it could do with the grain, it could do with a fault that you might have in the timber that you're going to say you can go and get rid of the bowl. This one is, there's no particular reason when I did this top and bottom, I just marked it so I knew what I was doing when I got here today. Alright, so I now want a spigot, and I want a twosome spigot, and for one of it sounds like a funny expression, but I want a spigot that's actually 25 mil long here, but I want the top bit to be where is it? The bit close to the bulk of the timber is 56 in diameter, and then the top bit is 40 mil. The 40 mil is so I can grab it with my standard chuck there, but I have to, if you know the rules when you're doing a spigot, is you shouldn't make them, the distance from the top of your jaws to the bottom is 12 mil. And I always tell people to only a maximum spigot of 11 mil, so you're still a mil clear of that bottom. If you're resting it on the bottom, it's not guaranteed to be flat, and therefore your work will be right out. So your spigot should be 11 mil or less. And for newbies, I say do all full 11, get as much timber into that down to that chuck as you can. But I'm going to do a 10 mil spigot here at a 40 mark, and I haven't, so I'll just mark it, and then one at 56. The 56 being just the ledge to stop the 40 going anywhere. So there's my 40. It's 20, and half of 56 is 28. They're my 2 marks I want. Where are we? I lost that one. So that's my normal spigot for a normal jaws, and there's the bigger one out there. All I'm doing is creating a ledge with that second one. Okay, just double check myself because my pencil moved up a bit. 40, yep, right here. So put our Okay, I'm just going to introduce
the parting tool here now to get that all sorted out. If I find it, it's not, all my tools are numbered, and that's because I have a carousel with all my tools on it. And it's just a matter of getting in here. And because I've reset all my work, I'm going to stand aside, turn the lathe down to nothing, turn it on, and then crank it up. And it's going to fly off. I'm not going to be around to sit. I'm going to be right well away from here. Okay, so we're ready to go. I'm going to go. Something moved there. That wasn't tight. That's my 56 sphere, and that's going to go down 25. So get my flip back fold here. George, stay in the solid timber area. Start feeding that out. I've got much too much feed there. Better? Funny about that. Parting gel to get that down. I gave myself about 25 in total. The knob ends up at about 18 mil diameter and about 20 mil high. Put that in there a bit further now. Oh, that's not 25. Let's just stop and measure that. We're well under 25, only 14 there. You've got ages to go. As long as I'll go a little bit deeper on that bigger one. It doesn't have to be 25, as long as when I come back to do it. Okay, now I'm coming back to my 40 sphere. I only want 10 mil down there. Bring that up on there. That's it. Let's move again. You can do all this with a gouge if you want. It's like that. I'm happy with a parting tool. Get it right. I'm also deliberately running my parting tool in an angle now to create a dovetail for my truck to go on below that. I just want to clean it there, which I've just about got. So just clean a bit more. Okay, I've got my two spigots. The second spigot purely being a ledge for the first one to sit on. That's running at 9 mil, so that's fine. Okay, so that's got all that. We've got all this, if you can imagine where the knob is there, I've got all that area there covered as such. Again, put a mark on your tool rest as to where you're going to go in, because that's where the hardest point is, just seeing that point there. Take some of that timber away. So you start. Spin it around first. We're going in, that's our starting point. A lot of this is just purpose. It's two of this picture. I think it's locked. Spin your work, make sure nothing's going to hit. I was feeling lively by that point before I started. I've got up some of the timber, I can get rid of all that. Now this is going to have an upward movement to it, so I've reached the timber, but I'm getting a profile sorted out in my mind even now. Bring this back here. Do one more cut and then we'll spin it around. So this is good practice for doing the final cut. Straight cut there. Okay. Alright, I've got a fair bit of timber there at this point. Okay, let's turn this around, mount it in an ordinary chuck now, and that's where knock that bar, get rid of that. I don't know whether if you got long nosed jaws down here, they're a great jaw. I use them an incredible amount of time for getting in behind my work, but you're going to see a little trick as to where they come into their own in a minute. Remount our work now here. Wind that back a bit. Take and make sure it's nice and square. I've already started my wing, so I go back to my cone centre with my little wooden support. Bring that in. Just back that off a bit so there's a bit of slop in the chuck. Yep. Wind this up. Nice and tight, and then do my final locking off with my chuck. I'm not going to mark this because I'm not going to come back to this. You'll see why in a minute. Nice and tight, because we're away from it. That chuck's going to do all my work for me at the moment. Right, so what we're doing is now doing the underside here of the lid. So we've got to create this shape. Now, I know my box, this lid has got to fit. I've got to create this part of the lid. In fact, that one even fits, it's a bit sloppy. But I've got to measure what this measurement is here. That's what I'm heading for. And for this job, it's 80. We'll get down to 85 and then take it from there. So I want to mark 85. That means I can take all that away and I'm not going to miss it. So 85, half of that is 42 and a half. I'll mark there. You know, in box making, when you're trying to get these critical, this is one of the most critical parts of box making, is to get this little bit right. So don't rush it and think it through before you cut. And in my first few boxes I wasn't thinking straight and I cut it into the wrong dimension. So that's going to be, that point there has got to be this point here, which then sits in the box. So I'll just now check my measurement that I just made. Make double sure it is, yep, it's close enough to 85, and as I said, I've got my end figure there, it's going to be about 82. Okay, take that one. Again, step to your left, turn your lathe right down to nothing, turn it on, and then crank it up. It's going to fly off, you're not too close to the action. Okay. Then I go there. Now this is normally, that depth there is in theory 4 mil. I want about 3 mil depth here, and I'm going to clean. I want to do a little tiny drag cutting and clean this space up. So I'm going to go down about 4 mil myself here. Further. Self and clear. Okay, let's do a little tiny drag cut with that. You do a drag cut with your spindle gouge. The only problem is I'm now too far away from my work to do that. Bring my work closer. My tool is closer, not my work tool is. You do a drag cut with a spindle gouge. All I want to do is clean this little tiny area up here, because that's going to be on show later on. I could do a cut like that if I wanted to. Okay, so that's my face. And now all I want to do, going back to that sample again, from now on, I can start just go in like that. So I'll get my foot back and in I go. I'm leaving myself a bit there because I'm still going to take some more out. In theory that should not fit. I don't want it to fit. I'm just cleaning all this up. I'm doing a combination of cutting inwards and doing a drag cut. Okay, that's cleaned up, and I've also got a recess in here, for want of a better word. You have a right clean up cut there with the back of my tool. Okay, right, let's double check things, make sure that it won't fit. Well, the way I've got it now, it won't fit because I can't get it in there. Why didn't you blokes pick me up on that? The ladies would have. They were being too polite. I'm going to cut this edge away here, and remembering what we're trying to achieve, going to the drawing or the sample, this is what we're doing here, and this is the edge that I've just done here, and this is going to be my wing up here. So I'm going to take a little bit of timber out, so I can go. Sorry?
Couldn't see the drawing.
Oh, my apologies. And so I'm going to bring my tool rest up again to my infamous mark that I've already marked, so I know where I'm going to hit timber. I'm going to take that off there. Trying to get my upward swing already. I'll do a drag cut out from there. I'm looking at the far side, it's not certainly cleared that area now. And see, I've started to create my upward swing there that I want. I won't tempt fade anymore, I'll just now get the fit going with the box sled. Later on we can fine tune all that. Jimmy Clues marks this part here. He tries to hold it and mark it up. I just find that once I've got it fitting, I just keep bringing backwards and forwards until visually I've got it right. Okay, so I've got to just, it's not far off fitting that. I'll take a little bit more off. This is the famous I'll time a little bit more, they say. A fine skew is what I do this with. I'll do that. Bring it up a bit so I can do a negative rates skew cut. Lock it away. Ascertain where my edge is. There. And I just come in and try and take half a mil at a time off there. That tool rest is too low. Don't start if you're not happy. Now, I don't know about you people when you do boxes, but I do 10 cuts. I've learnt by hard experience that if you try and do it all in one, and it's not far off fitting as I said. It's another half mil. And again, just a nice neat cut. You can go in on a slight angle with this if you want to, because it does all its work right down the bottom anyhow. Just feel for that half mil, and in I go. What I also do with boxes, I just actually round that corner off. Because that corner right there that I'm working on doesn't do any work. So I like to have a round corner on my lips as I go in. I always put the lips, this design calls for it, but I always put my lip of a box on the top, never on the bottom. So my boxes are always just dead flat. And the reason they're almost there, she wants to grab on and she won't. Half mil. Round that corner off again. Let's just pivoting with the skew there. I know this is tiresome in the demo, but it's got to be right. Right, it's onto the curved bit. I've just now got to do hopefully one final cut. Doesn't matter if this is a bit sloppy, this lid. I'm a great one for having lids in it. I don't like this pop fit business that the Americans love with their, because I think it's crazy. Somebody who's got a jewellery box and they lift it up and it's all together and all of a sudden lets go and you've got a good diamond watch or something, a diamond ring in the box, you're not going to be very happy. So I'm a great one for having fairly loose lids. Not so that they look bad, but each time I take a bit off, I round that edge up again. We're on, but it's too tight. Shouldn't. That's going back to your top pop fit. So I want one more edge off that and come in. This way, if I want to just almost do a scrape rather than a cut now, until we start coming on this profile. Again, spin the skew around the edge off. I like a rounded edge on the little lip there. I think it looks smart because all the work is done right back here in this back corner. We're on. Nice fit. Okay. No, that's not. A little bit of movement, but I don't care. That's fine. Okay. So what I want to do now is get that. We've got to create. Those that were observant said, "Oh, has he been fiddling with the bottom of his box there, his lid?" And you probably said, what's going on here? That is a deliberate function of deliberately cutting out this area here, which will be held by our long-nosed jaws in a minute. So I'm creating a recess in there for the long-nosed jaws. So what I want to do is now mark the centre, make sure I'm reasonably happy with that cleanliness of that jaw. I'm just going to mark the dead centre. And I'd like to keep this as tight as I can. The tighter you can keep it to the dimension of your long-nosed jaw, the less chance there is of any little marks. So what I do first is establish exactly the centre. All I do is put a pencil in there. I can virtually see it, but I put a pencil there. In the middle of that little circle there now is the centre of our work. From there we have to establish, and I'm 99% sure it's 35, but where are we? 36. So I want a 36 recess there in the centre. So I'm coming out 18 mil, which in theory is there. Mark that. These pencils I use are great. They're a triangular pencil you buy. They're a Faber-Castell, type HB, which is the lead I prefer. They've got a lovely grip on it, but also they're triangular. So when they sit on a tool wrist, they don't move. A round pencil will move. So let's measure that. And that's 35. So I can just take that pencil mark out. Right, so what I want to do is again get my trusty parting tool and drive in there and create, it's a bit high for her here, and create a little minute spigot. And this is incredible, the way that these long nose hold. You know, I've done work and I've seen people use them with just a 1mm recess. So right from the start, I'm actually going in on an angle. And I want to go in by about 2mm. And then I use my parting tool again because I want a flat there where the top of the jaw is going to hold. So I'm in on an angle. I don't really see the line of my parting tool. Now from there on, once I've got that, I'll go in a fraction more. Go swing up. Now I can do anything I like with this bit here now. I then go to great lengths to decorate it. Now I'll show you another little trick I use as well. So that's too high, I can start. I can do anything I like. I used to like to put a knob in here because I think they look nice. So I'm just going to roll it over and get a knob on it. I deliberately can leave that edge as it is. I'm actually going to use my normal skew here. That's 2 on the way off. I'm going to show you another little one way things I do. So just to clean this up again, just very light, hardly touch now, just to create a little button there. Then quite often if I'm decorating inside a box, I'll then put a couple of nice little grooves in there where I'm a great believer in putting your name on your box. That scraping now has created a slight tear out which I should need to go back and sand. I'll show you another little thing I quite often do, and it's with, this is with I'm taking this live centre out properly, and putting this live centre in, so see this one. This has already got, this is, I get this one from, this came from McGing, but there are other versions of it, but this has a number of different points that go in the end there as a live centre. But I normally use this for purely this function, which I'm going to do now. Get that right out of the way, bring this right up here, rest it on there, lock it off and it's not locking. And then I really lean into this and put a mark in there. I come back, get my tool rest, set my tool rest up, get my pointing tool, which you'd all have a pointing tool with you. You know what a pointing tool is? These little triangular tools, which they're great for putting marks in jobs. And make that point a little bit bigger. Now the purpose of all that is, later on, if I want to be able to hold that while I'm doing some work, and I don't want to have the centre of my, if I was using a normal cone, say cone, or a cup live centre, if I put that back in there to hold my work, because I'm a bit concerned that things are getting a bit nervy and I want some support, I'm going to create another hole there. But from now on, if I want to support my work, and this is just an example I was doing there, just to show you this little thing. I just bring this up here, wind this right in, that's on bearings, that supports your work, but actually the ring of that live centre goes into the ring I've just created, so nobody knows that you can see any other points. So somebody looking at this job just thinks I've created some decoration there. I've got a button and then I've got a groove there, just a bit of decoration. But that groove has got a purpose. Alright, so my next step here would be to now sand all this and clean all this up. I've got this little recess in here, which you're going to see in a minute what we're going to do. I've got one more job to do while this is here, and I can use that example of holding my work, because I'm a great believer in always having a centre up when you're doing things. It never does you any harm, even if it's only lightly in. But what I want to do is, this is the underside of the box, and I can get that, I can start to get that wing sorted now, but also I want to take a lot of this timber out of here. So twofold, we'll do both of those things now. I'll come back and get my underside cleaned up a little bit. Again, get my mark on my tourist. I can't get my tourist in there, so I'm going to put a new mark on, black fine tip pen marker. That's my new mark, which is where I'm going to start my work. Just put some of my tools up here so I can see them. Off there, I don't need that any longer. Okay, so we're going to work on getting this curve nice now. And I'm just looking at it before I start, there's not too much work to do. There's only a little fine cut here, and then just clean it up as we go in. So again, searching for that point where I'm going to start. A little light touch. Slowly touch with the nose. I'm coming in. I'm going to do a down cut here because I wanted to go further than I wanted to go in. Searching for that starting point again. Especially with this small work, you can do a bit of a drag cut almost down to the outside. Don't be too heavy on it. But hopefully you can do it without breaking your corners or damaging your corners. Let's see where we're at. Right, I've got an area there I've got to work at. That curvature's not bad. I'll put a pencil mark on that now. So where I want to start my cut. If I start it there and go in, I'm just about happy with that. Very, very light cut. Got that corner there I want to clean up. I want to clean up there. It's not all. Still a fraction more. Forward. Very dainty cut. Hardly anything else. And the drag cut again. See where we're at. I've got it, that point is closer in now. My curvature is not too bad. I'm just going to do one more tiny little cut. Okay, I'm going to get my delicate wet-back fold out. It's that heavy one. I don't need it as heavy as that. I'm on solid timber here. Hardly touching it. Oh, now I've got a little groove in that lip back. Okay. Let's have a look at it now. Pretty good. I can just about get to the stage where I can sand that. We don't know whether how our face is lining, our box is lining up. This is where we bring our box up. And line it up and get my shape right. Firstly, that lip needs a little bit more work on. For some reason it's not fitting now. And I'm having a look at the shape. And the shape is not bad, but it could come up more at the wings here. I don't know whether you can see it from this initial point needs to be a little bit more than that. Not that it's not fitting, it's It's too big a lid, too big a lip now. Let's fix that before we go any further. Get that, take a bit of height out of that lip. I'm going to run around. Blend in there, almost. Back it off there before I get to, then I do a drag cut in there. Don't want to lose my recess there. And I just got this one area to do here, clean that edge up again. I'll pivot there, spin my skew around and pivot there. Let's get the box up. Fitting, but it's just too big. I could either put that back in the works and drop that recess, but I think it's just as easy while I've got the lid up here to take this lip down a bit more. So just doing that, those tools again. I'm going to take another mill off here. Drag cut here if I want to. You to do the edge. Let's stop and have a look. Lovely. Okay, we're in. Just got to clean that edge up, and we're going to take a lot of weight out of here at the back. Surprisingly, we're just about finished. I just wanted to mainly work on that very leading edge and nothing else. So I'm getting my texture mark where it needs to be. Getting my result to my smaller skew because I only want a very light touch. I'm backing right off then as I was going in. Just getting that curvature right. And other than a little chip out there, which is a pain, we're right. I'll just take another tiny cut there and see if I can get that chip out. Hardly touching this. I'm happy with my curvature. Going to drag that in here. Okay, I do the rest of that by sanding. A tiny, very light drag down. I don't want to do any more damage to that edge. Right, I finish all that off by sanding there, even hand sanding. Right, we've got to now take the back, clean the back edge up a bit. I'm just getting rid of bulk timber here. I'm looking at the top there all the time. Okay, so what I've just done is taken timber off here, but still left my edge there. I can go in now, just with a big, I've got a 6mm heavy duty parting tool. I can go in there and just take out bulk timber. right down to the steel. This is one of my latest tools. It's a 6mm hardened tool, and it's a Rechter. It's easier to do it now than it is when I turn it over. Okay, nothing fancy, just being original. There we go, we're ready to go. So you can see we've got rid of all that timber in there now. And that, as I said previously, if it was at home I'd have cleaned all those edges up so they were nice before I flipped it around, but we haven't got time to do that today. I'm going to take all this off. Now, if you haven't got a long nose at home, you can do exactly this job with a standard jaw here like this. You've just got to have a wider measurement, and it's not quite as delicate, but it can be done with this, so don't despair if at home you haven't got a long nose jaw. You can do this job with a standard jaw. The beauty of the long nose is if you had an unusual lid, you can get right in there, whereas that standard jaw only lets you in a certain degree, but it's enough for this job to use either jaws. But this is where I'm coming up now, and I'm fitting that my long nose there, and as you can see it fits there. Now I've done this, I won't do it today because we're getting close to time, but you can actually tighten that right up and take your chuck off and hold that timber work with your chuck like that, with 2mm of timber and it'll hold. It's absolutely incredible. I never cease to marvel at that. That there. It's not locking again. She is pretty straight. Put some weight on that. Back my chuck off, and now to tighten it up. And make sure that those wings are reasonably straight from that side, because we're now going to cut them from this side, and I want to make sure that they're right. So I'm going to bring my tool rest in so it is virtually touching. It is touching, so I'll take that fraction. Let's see that we're within 1/2 mil. That's lovely. Okay, I'll just clean these edges up now. So we're going to actually go in there. I'll mark my contact point again because it's further out before. Now it's here. And then we go with that. Oh, yeah. Make sure nothing's touching, spin it around. Contact point is there. I'm going to do a drag cut. This has got to be a curve coming out this way. Stop and see that we've got it all working well. Yep, and take a bit more off there and a bit more, go in a bit further. A lot of this is stopping and seeing, unfortunately, this project. Right, I need to take more in that centre there, and the edge needs a bit more if she's a bit agricultural at this stage. sweeping back up to that point there. This timbers all got to go later on. I'll have to get my negative rake in there, clean that up. If you can see, I'm not happy with this area here. This edge is just about right. There's one tiny little cut there, and then I go and clean that middle bit up. Two cuts in the middle bit, but I knew that was well out. That's not bad. I could keep working at it, keep cleaning it, but I need to finish this knob for you. So let's go and work on the knob, and I'll come back to that. Problem there because I can't get that edge. See if I can get my little tool rest in there. That'll work, that's not hitting anything. Right, let's do our knob. Firstly, it's far too big for what it's supposed to be, so let's get rid of some of that. Actually working this up and back into the knob. Remaining at 20 and 30. That's all surplus. I'll stop and move my tool rest closer if I can. Just measure that now with a vernier. It's supposed to be 18mm. I think it's miles off that. Certainly is twice what it should be. Okay. I'm thinking about that transition point all the time with my knob. One go. So one hand I'm bringing my dog edge up because I like a nice clean point there. Just get my tool rest closer because I think that'll fall off the end of it. I've still got a little bit more there. See what our thickness is here. I've got a nice little cutting there that's got to be fixed. We're at 23. Okay, let's call that 18. One spindle gouge. And let's do the knob. I'd like to be a bit close to my work if I could, but I don't know what I'm going to. Now get in there with that tool rest I brought. Spin around, make sure we're not touching anything. Let's do a knob. shy away from my work here. I can put a nice little edge on that. Let's go this way. I put my tool rest around because I'm very uncomfortable there. A bit better. Just remember those spinning wings. This away now. And final cut. Yep. So put your hand there. There you are. So I got your bloke by the end of the day. Must be something to do with being it rounded. There's this last little delicate cut that I want to come on stuff. Right. It's called sandpaper. I'm never ashamed to say that I use sandpaper to create some finishes sometimes. You can fiddle all day, a little bit of backwards and forwarding. My attitude is nobody knows how you finish the job except you. Take that real point off that because it's not very nice. And let's have a look at it. There's got a little tear out there that could need to be fixed. And this needs further refinement. I can come in here with my bowl gouge and take more out of that centre area there. But I think you've all got an idea of what we've done and how we've achieved it. And there's they're those jaws that have held the work at the end. So I can take all this home and finish it off. So I've still got all the means of holding it. So that's the... Oh, thank you very much. You knew I'd need that, didn't you? You had it in your back pocket. So we're now looking at an almost finished product. So that's the base that we did. And there's a matching top. And it's not bad.
Thank you. Any further questions or anything? I hope I explained it all as I went along. All right. So